Welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundi, we've had a pretty big week in the past week for the NHL.
Yeah, it's been a crazy week. Yeah, I mean, we'll start off first. I look like just a fucking chump right now because I was very confident in the last episode we did talking about Corey Perry and Zach Parise being like, all right, we know that they're probably gonna sign, and then it was most likely gonna be at the trade deadline or around there when teams are moving players and this and that. And then sure enough, in the span of 2 days, just recently here now, Corey Perry signed with the Edmonton Oilers on a cheap 1 year deal for the remainder of the season. And then earlier today's Zach Parise signed a similar deal with the Colorado Avalanche. So fuck, sucks to be me, but huge
Yeah, it's
additions for both those teams.
yeah, great deals. I mean, Zach Parise is he's getting pretty old at this point, but I mean, fuck, if there's
Dude
a
can
team
still
that
motor.
I mean, if there's a team that can really bolster their bottom six with a little scoring touch, that just makes the Avs that much deadlier in the playoffs.
Yeah. And then the Oilers, I mean, they're on one of the best win streaks we've ever seen in the NHL. Now, you bring in Corey Perry, like it should. I mean, we don't know it because we haven't seen him play with them yet, but realistically, it should make them better. Will it? I don't know, but in theory, like it should, because
Yeah.
we know that the guy that they put on waivers and sent down was Adam Ernie, and I mean Corey Perry provides so much more value to the team than Adam Ernie. No disrespect to Ernie, but with a
Yeah,
guy
he
like
uh he
Perry,
really
I
hasn't
mean,
found his footing in Edmonton, which is too bad because we're not that many years removed from him being the top goal scorer, I believe, on Detroit Red Wings. Like he was a really good player over there for a little bit, and
no
it's too
no
bad to see him
shot,
fall off.
no shot.
I
He
I,
let no no he never.
I
His
believe in one of the
his
recent
highest in
years
one
he was.
season was 11 in 45 games.
I was
Holy
seeing that
shit! Actually, he
around.
was tied. He was tied with Mantha. Larkin had 9 in 44, and Nemestikov had. I mean, and this was the
Oh, so that was
um
the shortened season, probably.
yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say,
Holy shit, he
geez,
was
really
actually
not.
tied.
Yeah. So not staggering numbers, but I mean,
Fourth on the team in points. Philip Hronik led the team in points that year. Holy shit.
yeah. So it's too bad that he's fallen that far, but
Dude, my
I
skin's
don't
just
doubt that he'll
crawling.
find his way back onto a NHL team.
My skin is crawling looking at this roster. Oh, fuck, man. Shout out
They
Philip
were
Zadina,
bad.
actually. 49 games played that season, 0 penalty minutes. Nice
Oh
guy.
hell yeah,
What a
yeah.
roster.
But if
That's
the
tough.
Oilers get any better than they are right now, like that's crazy on its own because they are currently in a three-way tie in fifth place for the longest win streak in NHL history. They are currently at 15 wins. The all-time NHL regular season win streak record is only 17. They're only two away, set by
Yeah.
the 92-93 Pittsburgh Penguins. That's
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's insanely elite company. And I mean, who's their who's their upcoming schedule?
I believe they have. I know they just beat
To-
Chicago the other night.
Tomorrow they're playing the Predators in Edmonton. Well, you got to imagine that's going to be a win, most likely, right?
Preds are a sneaky team.
Probably, but
Ooh,
at
it's
home
interesting.
and that.
It's an
But
afternoon game, 2 p.m. Never know those afternoon ones.
even more
And then
interesting than that,
they go on the
uh,
break
yeah, they
for
go
the
on the
All-Star.
break. But if they win against the Predators, they'll be one away from tying the record, and that would be against the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah,
That would be a good game to watch.
the team who always kind of seems to have their number when it matters most.
Yeah, a
So
rematch
that'll
from
be a
last year's conference finals, right?
yeah.
And
Not
if they
conference
can,
final, quarterfinal.
it was quarterfinal. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, and if they win that game, I mean, after that they got the Ducks. So
or
you,
semifinals, whatever they call it. I don't know what they call it. I think it's semifinals.
I like to call it the second round,
Yeah,
just to
second round.
avoid it. This is somehow the second time this week I've had this conversation on whether it's semifinals, quarterfinals, or what's below quarterfinals.
Just bring back 1 versus 8. Fuck. Like we're past this now.
We can only hope.
We've had our fun dicking around with this wild card, old division teams rivalries. I don't give a shit. I'm tired of watching the same two teams freaking poke each other in the playoffs. Like it doesn't add anything. It did like the first couple years, sure, but like now, who cares?
Yeah,
Um,
I I think a lot of people are over having these rivalries in the first round. Like
it's not.
if you face a rivalry team, you want it to be in the conference finals or at least the second round. You know?
Well, yeah. First of all, that, but more so, like I want, like I liked when it was like just the one that kind of comes to mind to me because it's recent is like when Vegas entered the league. It was it was like okay, they're going to be rivals with Arizona because it makes sense. But then just naturally that rivalry developed with San Jose, and it wasn't like it wasn't forced upon us. They weren't trying to force a
Yeah,
rivalry.
they're not
It just kind of
marketing it
naturally
before it's a
happened.
rivalry.
Yeah,
Because
and now it's like it feels like with this, they're trying to force these rivalries and like
yeah,
like you look in the Central, it's like I mean, I don't pay as much attention to the Central, but it's like, when Colorado makes it, it's like, do they really have a team that's like, oh, they're rivals and hate each other? Not really. Like,
I know they're not them and Blues aren't a huge fan of each other, but like it's not a huge rivalry. Most of the Avs fans I know still would call the Red Wings their biggest rival, and they're not even in the same
yeah,
conference anymore. So,
yeah,
uh, but yeah, the NHL definitely tries a bit too hard to manufacture some of the rivalries. I know there seems to be almost zero animosity between the Canucks and the Kraken, and that's one that they really keep trying to push, which you can understand why because they're right there. They'll play each other. They're in a conference, but
yeah,
it so far it hasn't really clicked.
yeah. Um, just another thing. We're talking about the Oilers win streak right now and how incredible it is. Another streak that isn't getting talked about as much that I think is um just absurd right now is Nathan McKinnon.
I thought you
Um,
might bring that one up. Yeah.
he has scored a point in every single home game that he's played this year with the Colorado Avalanche. 25 games as of right now, 21 goals and 32 assists in 25 games. Like the way he's playing right now, like that's 53 total points in 25 home games. That is just absurd the way he's playing right now. And it's even more absurd the fact that in my opinion, he's not even the favorite for the Hart Trophy right now, in my opinion.
I would agree. I think he's in the
I
top 3 at this point. I think that's pretty hard
Yeah.
to deny, but
I think it's I can't um I can't pick a definitive 3. If I was I can
okay.
do 4. And
Who
we
are
we
that? Because I
it's
am interested. Because I think there's a pretty at least the way in the past they've judged it, I think there's a pretty clear top 3 right now. So I would love to know who your 4th guy is, assuming we have 3 of the same.
the fourth one's tough because we know he's not going to win it because of his position, but
Mm.
it's Kucherov, McKinnon, Matthews, and Hellebuck.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, because I do think Hellebuck and so those were the same ones I had in mind. except for Hellebuck. But I definitely wish he would get a little more consideration, just because what he's doing for that team is nothing short of incredible. He is so consistently good and just an absolute rock in net, and he he helps them get a lot of wins. Like, they went on like a 23 game streak allowing 3 goals or less in a era where we've got multiple guys scoring at above a 1.6, 1.7 points per game rate. So
Yeah.
he's really doing incredible work. But yeah, I think right now it's the way I see the votes going, it's definitely going to be Matthews, Kucherov, and McKinnon.
Yeah, and like again, if Matthews reaches 70 goals, like that, it makes the debate a little bit tougher. But the way that I always view it for the Hart is not, you know, just the best player of the season, whoever puts up the most points.
Yeah,
I
it's
always
different
still
from the
view it
Lindsay.
as Yeah, I always still view it as, the player who's the most valuable towards their team. And you may disagree with this because I know you're a Tampa Bay fan.
Okay.
You remove Nikita Kucherov from the Tampa Bay Lightning, Tampa Bay's probably sitting bottom 7 in the league.
No,
And
I don't.
it's also, again,
If
they're
you
only
also
10
remove
points away from
Vasilevsky,
that.
I would absolutely agree. I think
Yeah,
just Kucherov puts them about bottom 10 ish, maybe. But yeah, losing Kucherov is massive. We have the best power play in the league right now, and we aren't even close. We're not even top 16 without him, I don't think. Like, he completely changes the way everyone plays when he's on the ice.
yeah.
And he is, man, he is so fun to watch. I'm going to be so sad when he starts declining, because you watch guys like Matthews, McDavid, McKinnon, they dominate with their skill. Uh,
Yeah.
Kucherov is, I know you always like to say that Sorokin is the most athletic goalie in the league. Kucherov is easily, in my mind, the greatest hockey mind in the NHL right now. He is
He
so
reminds me a lot of Joe
cerebral
Thornton,
on the ice. Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, the way
He's
he sees
incredible.
the ice and, like, sees the play developing as it's going is so incredible. And
Yeah.
he's actually shored up. He's by no means getting Selkie votes, but he shored up his defensive game a decent bit as well in the last year and a half.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch, and that's the one thing that I'm wondering, because Kucherov will get a lot of points out of those 3 in the voting because he helps his team the most. Like, the team would be hurt without him the most out of those 3. Um, but I
Yeah.
also think McKinnon will get a couple extra votes because uh, they really it's almost like a lifetime achievement. Like, a lot of people are like, "Really? Nathan McKinnon has, like, he doesn't have an Art Ross, he doesn't have a Lindsay, he doesn't have a Hart." Like, it just feels
The only
weird. A player
individual
of that
award
caliber has no individual award. So,
the only thing he has is the Calder from his rookie year.
yeah. So,
And my biggest thing is if Matthews hits 70 goals, you just know there is going to be so many people that vote him first on their ballot just
yeah.
on that alone. To be like, well, he hit 70 goals. Like that in itself. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, but it's like, again, I always still view it for, as the award is talked about and presented, is the most valuable player to their team
Yeah.
or in the league. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, but it's like you remove McKinnon, it's like Makar's kind of the consensus number 1 defenseman in the league. So if you've got
Rantanen
the
still, at
best
least
defenseman,
without McKinnon, I think Rantanen still puts up 100 points probably,
yeah,
or at
Rantanen has
least
shown he
close.
can carry a line on his own.
Yeah,
And
especially
you've
if he's
got
still
Makar,
playing with
and then
Makar.
yeah, and then the
So,
Toronto, like even without Matthews, like, are they going to be as good? Obviously, no. But with all the other talent they have, they would still be just fine. So
yeah, it would be interesting, because I don't know when the last time it happened. Maybe it happened recently and I just, like, missed it. but I can't remember the last time a different player won the Hart and the Ted Lindsay. And I think we could see that. If McDavid hits 70 goals, but Tampa Bay sneaks into the playoffs, I could see a world where Kucherov wins the Hart Trophy and Matthews wins the Ted Lindsay.
I do think I
And
really
I think
actually
that'd be
do
fun to
think this
see.
year. Yeah, I
I
think
hate
we
that
do
they're
see them
always tied
go.
together.
Yeah, I think we do see them go separate ways this year, just based on the amount of guys up there. It's like, yeah, I really could see a world where it's one trophy goes one way, the other one goes the other, and I would be uh, perfectly okay with that because
Yeah.
the Hart is kind of built up to be this whole, uh, the most prestigious award. But I feel like the Hart Trophy, there's a lot of personal biases that go on behind the scenes with it. Whereas the Ted Lindsay, it's you're being voted as kind
By
of
the
like the best
players.
player in the league, yeah, by all these other guys in the league, which I think actually uh, does hold more value than
Yeah.
a bunch of
I
guys in suits who, you
I
know,
don't know if I've ever brought it up on the podcast. I've definitely talked to you about it and a lot of people personally, but I very strongly believe that the Ted Lindsay Award should be pushed as the big, this is the best trophy of the regular season instead of the Hart Trophy. I think
yeah,
the players voting who is the best player, that should carry so much more weight than all the who votes on it? Is it the GMs or people in the media on like
it's a
the
bunch of
media
like
association?
media. Yeah, it's a bunch of like
Yeah.
media guys.
Yeah, like not only is it matter more from the players in my opinion, but also, you know, we had we had guys the other year when 99 of the 100 guys or whatever voted McDavid first. And then the one dude put Pasternak first. Guess what? He didn't have McDavid second. He had him like fourth. Like,
Yeah,
so you got a couple of absolute bums in there throwing their votes around willy nilly, just being idiots. So it,
yeah.
I would love a lot more respect put on the Lindsay and not just being like a supplementary trophy to the Hart.
Yeah, I completely would agree with that. But with that, we can move on to the plenty of other news that we've got throughout the league in the last week here.
Yeah.
Where do we want to start? We
I
got some
know it's
highs, we
in
got some
here
lows.
somewhere before we move on too much. Here it is. Uh, just gonna throw in that only three active, currently playing NHL players have ever hit the 80-point mark in 47 games or fewer. Those three players being Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, and now Nikita Kucherov. So we were just singing his praises already, but just to show that, I mean, that's some of the most elite company you can be in, at least in this current era.
Yeah,
Crosby, McDavid, and Kucherov. That's incredible. And McKinnon this year just missed out. I believe
yeah,
at
just barely.
47 games he had 78 or 79 points.
79, I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just missed out on it. Um, just another one very quick to throw in there. New York Islanders forward Brock Nelson hit 500 career points. Uh, one of those guys that I think is always just he's very underrated. I still think he's one of the better goal scorers in the league. And again, just doesn't get as much recognition because he's with the Islanders. Whereas if he was
Yeah.
in a bit of a bigger market, I think he would be more of a household name. But nonetheless, 500 career points. Well done to Brock Nelson there. Speaking of the Islanders, um, that probably some of the biggest news we've had throughout this season, and
Yeah.
kind of
We
came
could
out
have
of
started with
nowhere.
this.
Yeah, kind of.
Absolutely blindsided me. I had no idea.
I kind of thought it was coming. Just the way the team was going and the way the fans like just all of them voicing how they felt. But the New York Islanders, after losing to the Chicago Blackhawks the following day, they did fire head coach Lane Lambert, and replacing him is none other than Patrick Waugh. Uh, it's a huge shakeup there for the Islanders. I think they got a terrific coach in Patrick Waugh who um, it can come in and kind of reshape the identity of that team and
Yeah.
try to give them that identity that they really haven't had since Barry Trotz departed. So yeah, and it's still early. You can still see kind of the
Yeah.
growing pains of the team throughout it. Um, but I think this is a phenomenal hiring, and I do see a lot of success for the Islanders with Patrick Waugh as their head coach.
Yeah. Patrick Waugh, he just last year, I believe, um won the Memorial Cup in
Yeah,
out of the QMJHL. So uh he's got a little bit of pedigree there with coaching, as much as a guy who hasn't coached in the NHL. Actually, he has coached in the NHL a bit. He coached the Avalanche back in, I think, around 2016.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. He was with them for 3 seasons, I believe it was.
yeah, with bad team, bad roster, it's a tough look. And that goes back to what you were saying the other day about bringing in these all-time greats from your franchise as the coach, but you're not quite through the rebuild. So if you have to fire him, it's looks really weird afterwards.
Yeah,
But I think signing Waugh as a head coach could be great for the Islanders, and also with a stud like Sorokin in net, who better to be coaching you, right? Like, he's the
yeah.
head coach, he's not the goalie coach, but surely he's going to have some knowledge to impart on him.
Oh, 100% he will. And I think that could be huge for Sorokin for sure. So yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting to keep an eye on that and see, um, you know, what kind of changes we see in the identity of the Islanders and see if they maybe take up a bit of a different structure than what they were running um, under Lane Lambert. And more importantly, I'm excited to see how Islanders fans react after losses and who they blame because anytime they
Yeah.
lost, it was fire Lane. He sucks. He's the problem. And now that he's gone, it's like, well, what do you do now? You're not going to start dogging on the new coach. So I don't know if it turns to the players or what, but it'll be interesting to see where they voice their frustration because they're a very passionate fan base. Not to say
Yeah.
that they're a bad fan base or anything, they're just very passionate. And so
Which
someone
is
else is
which is
now going to
good.
be under the microscope.
You want your fans to give a shit, you know? Nothing sucks more than an apathetic crowd that doesn't care about the outcome. Like,
Yeah,
a crowd booing you off the ice is better than a crowd that is silent, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah. Just to kind of play around and with Colorado a little bit more. Cale Makar became the second fastest defenseman to reach 300 career points. He did so in 281 games. That puts him only behind Bobby Orr, who did that in 280. So again, we
One
were
game
talking about
short.
McKinnon being 1 game short, and now Makar 1 game short of time Bobby Orr there.
Yeah.
But and in this day and age, if you're a defenseman and you're even in the same conversations with as Bobby Orr, like that in itself
Yeah.
is just a huge attribute to kind of put under your belt there.
Yeah.
That's not
And
going to be the last time they're mentioned in the same conversation together.
well, it's funny you say that because I was just about to say, don't get used to them being in the same conversation as far as things like this go, because a lot of people have been saying that this is one of the last big things that Makar has a realistic chance of beating Bobby Orr out for. Because if you watch their career kind of production, it's been around similar, around 300 games. This is when Bobby Orr, like, he has like a Gretzky level incline. He like
Yeah,
absolutely turns it on. Because so Makar is how old? Probably 20, 24, 25 ish,
I
maybe
think
even
he's 20
23.
20. Yeah, I think he's 23 right now.
This is
Or
this is
24,
about
sorry, 24 he should be.
this is
I'll double
about
check.
in Bobby Orr's career when he's like 21 at 280 games. Like, because he started playing right when he was 18. So
Yeah.
he's a kid when he's doing this stuff. And like, take nothing away from Makar. I mean, second fastest defenseman all time, 1 game away. But Bobby Orr, like, just gets so much better at this point. Like, the graphs just like to absolutely take off. really just absolutely insane what Bobby Orr did while he played.
Yeah, Makar's 25, by the way. And like
Okay,
Makar, since his rookie year, which was 5 seasons ago now, going forward,
oof, that's
he's
crazy.
yet to have a regular season where he finishes under a point per game. So
Yeah,
like as a defenseman to constantly be a point per game or higher is nuts, regardless of who you're playing with. Like
yeah.
that's just absurd. So props to Kale Makar, and we'll we'll be continuing to talk about him as he continues to set records, break records, and uh, continue on doing that.
Continue building a trophy case at that.
He's already got a big one. It's only gonna grow.
Yeah. Um, the other night, Brendan Gallagher got suspended 5 games after elbowing Adam Pelech in the head.
Yeah,
Uh, it 5 games makes sense for the precedent that the NHL has set in the past, but I would have loved to see double digits. Like, I don't
yeah.
think Gallagher is always a dirty player. I think he just plays a hard game, but
He plays
nothing.
on the edge.
But that hit was
It was late.
it was
Clear
late.
elbow.
He his hand left his stick to stick his elbow out.
Yeah,
It wasn't a last minute. Oh, I'm gonna miss with my shoulder. Better put my elbow. It elbow all the way. He never intended to hit him with the shoulder.
yeah,
Only aimed for the head. It was everything about it was brutal. Uh,
yeah.
I even though he's not known for this kind of stuff, just to really put the hammer down and be like, guys, we can't be doing this shit. I would have loved to see at least 10 games. Just especially on a guy like Adam Pelech, that sucks because he's all even ignoring what just happened, which I assume he got a concussion from it because that was brutal. But
I'm not. I don't know
he's
what
had
he's dealing with.
three concussions in the last 2 years already. Like
Yeah.
so, hopefully he didn't get one somehow. But
Well, he was able to skate off under his own power,
yeah,
and
he didn't
he
get
he
knocked
didn't
out
need
or
to
anything.
be and he didn't need to be like helped off by anyone. He was able to get off, which is a good sign. Usually when you see guys have concussions, they need some help actually getting off the ice into the dressing room. So that is a good sign. But again, it's like in my opinion, that is I think that's the dirtiest thing you can do in the game. Like if you hit a guy from behind, I don't even think that's as dirty. Like when you
I
go in and
think it depends,
you're
but
purposely
yeah,
throwing your elbow at a guy's chin, like and we know what elbow pads are nowadays. They're like rock hard.
they're
You
like
take
freaking
that straight
slabs
in
of
the
cement on your
jaw,
elbow.
yeah, like you push a guy from behind the boards, still very bad, but guys more so have a chance to maybe protect themselves, or the boards kind of soften the impact a little bit. But it's like when you're just flying up the ice and you got a guy flying at you opposite directions, and they whip their elbow and they connect in your jaw. Like
Yeah,
I'm shocked that
especially as
Pelech was
somebody
actually able
who
to
is,
get up.
especially as a guy who's played hockey, right? I haven't played in some time, but when you go for a hit, you can't. I'm sorry, but you can't accidentally elbow someone in the head unless they
No,
ram their head into your body. It doesn't happen because to stick your shoulder out, your arm goes down and gets tucked in. Like it takes
yeah,
so much active effort to lift your elbow up like you're fucking Wade Barrett swinging your elbow like a madman. Like yeah, it's a bad look on Gallagher and hopefully he doesn't do that shit again, but
well, and every time I see something like this happen, one of the first things I do is I go and look at the team's upcoming schedule. And
mm,
one of the last 2 games of the season, we do see the New York Islanders and the Montreal Canadiens face off back in Long Island. So, like, I feel like Gallagher's going to have to answer the bell to someone
you
in
hope
that
it's
game.
Gallagher, right?
Oh no,
Cuz
like yeah, it's not going to be like Joel Armia or Josh Anderson's going to go out there and fight Matt Martin. Like that's not going to solve it. It's like
oh,
someone's like Gallagher's going to have to to fight and face the music. And if he doesn't,
I
you might
yeah.
even see a Gabranson thing,
I wish
which
I was
I
talking
don't
about that, but,
condone.
like,
But
with the, who was it? The Minnesota and Wild and the, Jets earlier this year. We saw a guy take
yeah,
a cross check, and instead of that guy going and fighting, he turned around and he sticked a kid in the face. Like, you
yeah.
know,
Well,
are
we
are
also
they
saw the
are they
opposite.
gonna say, "You know what, Matt Martin, go out there and, go hit Cole Caulfield as hard as you can in the face with your stick?" Like, you hope that Gallagher's the one who's gonna have to answer the bell, but that kinda depends on how the Islanders wanna play it,
Well,
unfortunately.
the thing is, at least with the Islanders, like, because they're one of my favorite teams, outside of the Sharks. I love to watch their games.
Yeah,
Um, like a guy like Matt Martin, he's not gonna do that. He's a very classy guy.
yeah,
It's I'll hit you hard, but I'll hit you clean. I'm not gonna jump you. It's if we're gonna
yeah,
fight, we're gonna fight.
yeah. For a
I
guy with that many hits, you do not see him in controversial clips that often.
Yeah, I can't even remember. Someone might call me out for this. I might be wrong. I can't remember him being suspended. Like
Yeah,
you're telling me a guy
at least
that's
not in recent
fights
obvious memory
all
to
that
me.
like fights probably 10 times a season, second all time in hits since they've started to be recorded. Like and no controversy around him. He plays hard, but he plays clean. And if Gallagher's gonna fight, it's not gonna be Matt Martin because again, Martin knows he's way out of Gallagher's weight class. Like Martin would throttle him. It would
Yeah,
probably be a guy I'd say like a smaller guy like a Cal Clutterbuck. I think makes sense or something like that. But again, it's like as much as Matt Martin would want to, I think even he knows like you're out of my weight class. Like if
yeah,
Gallagher fights someone, then maybe Matt Martin's like, hey, you know, Jack guy or Anderson, you're in my weight class. Let's go then or something. Um, but again, it's going to be something that's interesting to keep an eye on because when it's a player like Pellick too, he's a huge part of that Islanders team.
and they're trying to push for the playoffs.
Yeah, like if imagine that's another concussion and all of a sudden it's like Adam Pellick is now, he's done for the season. Like and
Yeah,
a 5 game
that's
suspension.
yeah. And I think the biggest distinction from a lot of the things here is that it was blatantly not an accident. If you
Yeah,
hit a
it
guy
was
and
intent.
while he's losing balance, or you couldn't turn away in time and the guy gets brained, but you didn't really mean to do it, it's, you know, you have to fight maybe, but like you're clearly not in it. It's not too bad, but when you're going out there throwing elbows like that,
When you're
the
chicken
other team's
winging
gonna
a
be
guy,
fucking pissed. Yeah.
like yeah. Yeah. Those situations are just always so tough to watch because one concussion can end a career.
Yeah.
And a guy that's already faced multiple, like you hate seeing those type of hits. Um, you want to see a harsher suspension because you really want to see,
Less of them. I don't
the,
wanna see them.
the league take a stand and be like, we're not going to condone this. Um, like because in my opinion, those are the hits that can end careers. They're most likely to end careers out of any other play.
We've seen
And
hits like that end careers. Wasn't
yeah,
it, Mark Savard?
yeah, yeah. That's
Like,
that's one of the first
big
things that came to my mind when I watched
big
that hit.
elbow, just never played again.
Yeah, it was actually funny. The Sharks just released a new alternate jersey, which looks sick, by the way.
Fantastic
And
jersey.
the player they used to promote it was Rafi Torres. And so I was like, oh
Ooh,
shit, you know what? I bet Brendan Gallagher watched that video beforehand and got a little inspiration because I liked Rafi Torres as a player. I didn't like the controversy around him and some of his hits. But he looked just like Rafi Torres pulling that shit.
yeah,
And it's just like, man. And I don't know. I would like to talk. I don't know any. It's actually surprising that I don't know a Montreal Canadiens fan. Um, but even they are disgusted with Gallagher, And I guess
Every Canadians fan I know that I have talked to about it, which admittedly is only two, but they're both like, what an absolute bonehead. They don't like seeing that.
yeah, and all these Canadians fans are talking about I don't know when it was from, but it was obviously some hit that was made previously at some point. And Gallagher was talking about like how he's like, "Oh, you can't be throwing cheap shots like that. Like there's kids in the crowd. You're supposed to be a role model in this and this, something along those lines." And then he does this, and so now I see a bunch of Montreal fans digging up the receipts on that and being like, "Hey, Gallagher, like you're preaching about being a role model and not doing cheap stuff like this when there's kids watching you and looking up to you." And it's so they're basically kind of calling him a hypocrite at this point. And
Yeah, which
yeah,
is fair.
he's not well liked amongst the fan base at this moment.
Yeah, which
Uh,
is strange because he's very typically been a fan favorite in Montreal. Like,
Heart and soul guy.
yeah, so it's in a very weird spot right now. And you hope to read that he's reached out to Pellick, or that he apologized or something like that. And
Yeah,
because
and
I
you know
don't
the
he
type of
generally
guy
isn't about
Gallagher
that,
is.
but
Like I feel like he did. Right,
yeah,
he probably looked back and was like, he's like, what the like, what did I just do?
yeah,
Like again, I don't think he's a scum or a cheap or dirty player. I mean, what he did in that play, sure.
yeah,
But again, I think the basis for only a 5-game suspension is because he doesn't have a history.
yeah,
So, but speaking of really harsh suspensions, Shane Pinto is back in the league. He signed a 1-year contract with an AAV of 775 thousand with the Ottawa Senators. He's now back and playing with the team. It's not confirmed, but it sounds like there's talks of a bigger contract between the two sides. So that's something to keep an eye on because, again, the whole basis for him not being signed at the time when he was suspended was he felt he was worth more than what the Senators were offering, and the Senators felt like he was worth less than what he wanted. So it's kind of good to see the two sides trying to bury the hatchet and work out a fair deal for both sides. And it'll be interesting to see kind of what that deal may look like.
yeah. Because that's the kind of guy that they're gonna need. A guy who can go in that middle six. He can score pretty well, and especially he's still pretty young. So if he can only get better, then yeah, it could be a really good signing. I'm expecting some sort of bridge extension. 2 to 3 year.
I would assume it's probably got a no gambling clause in it. Would be my guess. It's
Yeah,
probably one of the
kind of
first
similar to
things.
every contract in the league, but maybe he didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, but nonetheless, good to see him uh, back in the
Scored a
league, smiling, having
fantastic
fun.
breakaway goal the other day.
Yeah, yeah, the skill is definitely still there, and again, I don't think the Ottawa Senators even sniff the playoffs. But having him back and being a little bit of a bright spot of their continuing rebuild that's been going on for 5,000 years, it probably makes the Senators feel a little bit better knowing that they've got a guy like that.
Yeah. Um. Ambri Piotta, Swiss hockey team in the National Hockey League, over in Europe, announced that Alex Formenton has taken a leave of absence and is currently returning to Canada.
Yeah.
He's not the only one. Over the past couple days, about a week, there's been quite a few players that are uh, requesting and have all been granted their leave of absence. Um, Other players that have done that are Carter Hart of the Philadelphia Flyers, Dylan Dubé on the Calgary Flames. Um, I'm sorry, I don't have them in front of me. You have the other two?
Michael
Or no?
McLeod and Cal Foote of
Yes,
the
thank you.
New Jersey Devils.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we again right now, we kind of talked about this before we hopped on here. At this point in time, I think every kind of hockey fan that's following this situation, kind of has a collective opinion. Um,
There's a lot of
since
assumptions going around, and we
yeah,
don't wanna feed into it too much. It's hard to ignore because, um,
yeah,
they all did it within about a week of each other,
yeah,
um, as well as after they had all done that, after the final 2 had, got their leave of absence, the next day, the London, Ontario police uh, told the five unnamed members of the 2018 Canada World Juniors team to come to London and surrender themselves.
no, it was Dubé first, and then Hart a couple days later. Then the
Yeah.
news came out that they had to surrender, and then that's when we saw
Oh, the
um,
other 2 did
the other
afterwards.
three. Oh, the other three, Formenton from the Swiss
Oh, okay.
Hockey League, and then McLeod and Foot. Yeah, they were actually after um, the official news thing came out that they had to surrender. Which, again, right now, we're kind of sitting and waiting.
It's all
We
speculative. We
do
don't
know
want to
that
point any
a pre
fingers,
yeah,
but
and we do know
it's
that a press conference is up and coming within a little bit about over a week. Um, so again, right now, and it's one of those things where it's like there's so many, you know, pieces involved. There's so much stuff around it. There's so many
yeah.
outside things. Um,
They could all be, for all we know, testifying against other people that are known to be
yeah.
the perpetrators. So for now, we'll leave it at they've all been granted their leave from their respective teams, whether NHL or over in the National League.
It's also
But
interesting though,
we'll
like that.
definitely give a lot of an update after that. The London police give their
Yeah,
big tell-all speech that they're supposed to give.
yeah. That's when everything will kind of all come to light. Um, all not including Formanton because he was off playing butt fuck nowhere. But those other four players, it is interesting. They have been removed from all official team things. Like you go on any websites, including the NHL website, you go on any apps or websites for other sports things. They don't have those players listed on their roster. They're not included in the team stats. Uh, these teams have pulled any products or jerseys relating to these players from their arenas and shops. So it's like they're as of this point in time, like the league, the teams are 100% disassociating themselves with these players entirely.
Yeah,
Um, and again, it's all speculation right now. Like, do we know? And again, do we know which way this is kind of leaning? Probably, but w- we're not going to speak on it and make assumptions or accusations or this and that until we kind of know more of the facts. Because again,
yeah.
we don't want to be
Hindsight
the
is
guys sitting
2020.
there. Yeah, we don't want to be the guys sitting there being like, man, we just dogged on this player and all this. And it turns out that he was one of the five that wasn't a part. He was a part of something else within the situation, but he's not a guilty party or something. So we just want to do our due diligence and uh, sit on the fence and just twiddle our thumbs and wait for it to kind of all come to light, and then we can actually have a genuine discussion about it.
Yeah, and again, we've done it before, but another massive shout out to Rick Westhead for following this, keeping people
Yeah,
in the know, reporting on it. Him and Katie Strang do such incredible work,
yeah.
exposing the uh, often untoward underbelly of sports culture as a whole. Um,
And this whole thing really makes me kind of wonder if this is a yeah, because something's got to change. Like this isn't the first time we're hearing about this. It's not going to be the last, unfortunately. Um, and I feel like within the CHL, the Canadian Hockey League, which consists of the WHL, the OHL, and the QMJHL, or the
yeah,
QMJHL is now actually going by something different. I think it's the QM
I believe they changed the name, but
something.
the
Yeah.
acronym is actually the same.
Oh, okay.
I can't
Um,
remember what I think it was one of the last 2 letters got a word change, but it's still the QMJHL.
yeah, and it's I like the concept of it. It's like it's a way for players, first of all, to showcase their skill and get into the NHL, but it also really gives them a taste of it. And the problem I have constantly always thought about with it is it's so fucked up to think that teams draft these 14-year-old kids, these 15-year-old kids. They have to uproot their life away from their family. They have to go live with a new family, and
Yeah.
they're treated like a saint in that city. And then all of a sudden, boom, hey, you're 14 years old, 15. Yeah, we just traded you for some picks. You're now going uh to a different province now, and you got to now go and join a different family, new team, new coaches, and all this. And it's like, and I can't remember who said it, but I saw someone say it. These are kids who are still going through puberty. Like they're not even
Yeah.
fully grown adults, and you're asking them to uproot their life, move, potentially move again, and they're in places where a lot of these junior teams, in some cases maybe not, but a lot of them are in smaller cities. Like it's not like like not including teams like the Hitmen or the Oil Kings, like not in ones that already have like NHL teams, but like the Kamloops Blazers
Yeah, the
or
Swift
the
Currents.
Windsor Spitfires. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like that's their NHL team there. Like those fan bases are nuts for their junior team there. So these players are treated like saints and untouchable. And when they don't have their family around them, they don't have their childhood friends. Like that, I think that's really when you start to see some of these players make these. Um, I don't even want to call them mistakes because they know what they're doing. But again, it makes you wonder, like, do we need to see a change within how the CHL conducts things? Because if something doesn't change, we're gonna keep seeing
Yeah.
these things happen, and it sucks. Like, not defending players, but it sucks to see a player that you're cheering for and watch develop and you're rooting for, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's like, man, you've got, again, like Gallagher said, you've got these kids that are looking up to you, and then it's like, boom, it's like it turns out that they're a monster. And yeah, something's got to change eventually.
Yeah.
I don't know
And
how
I
they
do
would go
think we
about it,
are
but
already, maybe not systematically yet, but we are seeing a change in that culture. Um, the last CBA that was signed was negotiated by in the 2004 lockout was signed by the NHL's team of lawyers and betmen, and on the other side was all the top NHL players. And a lot of names you would recognize, a lot of names you'd love, Joe McGinley, uh, Peter Forsberg, Steve Yzerman, Mario Lemieux, maybe even if he was still around at that time. Guys like definitely Yager, guys like that were all in those in that position of power,
yeah,
and they fucked over the guys, simply put, that were going to make less in the league between the cap hit and just a lot of the things, the way they structured it, especially for safety. We all love hearing $5,000 fine, the minimum allowable under the CBA. They
yeah, the
fucked
maximum,
over a lot
maximum.
of the maximum, sorry, uh, of, yeah. So they kind of fucked over a lot of guys with that. And I I mean, maybe they have, but I've never heard any of them come out and say, "Yeah, that was fucked up. We should have done better." But do I know for certainty? No, but I believe that if it was Crosby, McDavid, Matthews, a lot of guys like that are, if they were the ones that to argue the next CBA, I think it would look a lot better for the rest of the league, for safety, for pay throughout the league. I think it would look better for a lot of the guys. So I do think, in general, guys are being held more accountable or holding themselves to higher standards. Um,
Yeah,
but it's like I'm saying, it's the guys in the league. It's not really. a systematic thing yet, which is something that we do need to see at a point.
Yeah, I completely agree there. One thing that is a bright spot, and I think it's actually a good it's a nice step in the right direction for junior hockey, not as, these players developing, but I think more so just for fans. Um every year we always get the CHL prospects game, which is, team Gretzky versus Team Orr, and it consists of all the best players between the three Canadian junior hockey leagues, which is cool. But that is now going to be axed, done.
Yeah.
What it's going to be replaced with is still a prospects game, but it consists of the best Canadian junior prospects versus the best American junior prospects, which is it's kind of like, when you see Canada and US in the World Juniors, but this is all just prospects. Like none of these guys have been drafted. They're probably all going to be drafted within the upcoming draft. And that can be some really exciting hockey actually to watch, seeing all the best Canadian prospects taking on all the best American prospects and kind of continue to add a little more fuel to the fire that is the Canada versus the Americans when it comes to rivalries in hockey. So I think that's really exciting. I think that's a huge step to showcasing the best up and coming talent because you can market the shit out of that now. Like
Yeah.
that can become like a huge thing, and it's probably gonna be something that is gonna be probably broadcasted on, like, Sportsnet or TSN or something, like, it's gonna be great production around it, lots of fans, like, it's gonna be huge, and it's gonna be very exciting hockey, like, we just saw actually tonight, Boston University played Boston College. And Boston College features guys like Will Smith, Gabe Perreault, Ryan Leonard, Cutter Gauthier, and Boston University has Macklin Celebrini. I believe Boston College ended up winning. I think it was like 4-1 or something. But it's like that's so cool to see some of the best up and coming prospects in the NHL going up against the guy who's probably going to go number one overall. Like those are the games that you get excited for, seeing kind of the best on best. So
Yeah, could
uh,
you imagine seeing guys like McDavid and Matthews, playing each other while they're still, uh 16, 17, 18? Like
yeah, right.
that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. It's always like, you know, the Americans win. That's something those players will always have over those other Canadian players when they make it to the NHL. It's like, hey, we won the prospects game, and it's like it doesn't mean shit. Like they don't get a trophy or anything, but it's just a little accolade that those players can hold on to, and uh, means more to them than any of us would ever know. So
Yeah, it's as long as it's executed well, I think it's going to be fantastic.
yeah, yeah, I can completely agree.
Um this one we'll definitely take a little bit less time, but I do think it's important to highlight. It's kind of crazy we didn't have to the way we talked about it, but for this one, I am going to issue a sexual assault slash bullying trigger warning, just in case anyone wants to skip forward past that about 5 minutes. Um, but also reported by Rick Westhead, of course. Former Chicoutimi, I believe is the city pronunciation, player Carl Latulippe filed a $15.7 million lawsuit in April 2023 against the CHL, the QMJHL, and its teams, alleging he and other rookie players were beaten with bars of soap in towels and were forced to watch porn and masturbate on a team bus in the presence of coaches, among other things. Um, this has been corroborated already with other players that were rookies at the time, so there is smoke to this fire. Um, And yeah, it's starting to be more public now. Like I said, April 2023, we're 9 months past that, so it's been going on. Um, but the local police force is working on it, and uh, yeah, another thing we were just saying about how uh, the old culture, like you like to think they're not doing stuff that bad nowadays, but hopefully it's at least less than what they did before, because they've got multiple players talking about this happening back in 95, and we're here 29 years later, and hopefully a lot less of this, hopefully none going on at all at this point.
Yeah, and again, that's always one of the biggest things that's kind of surrounded the CHL as a whole. Is you've got these 14 and 15-year-old kids that are still just trying to find their way in life and learn how to be an adult, and they're very prone to peer pressure and whatnot. And you throw them on a
Especially from
team
the
where
coaches. If the coaches
yeah,
are in on it, like,
yeah,
fuck.
like not even the coaches, but when you've got you know older teammates who are 20, 21, like they're full on adults. It's like and again, that's a huge part of it is you really got to know what kind of players you're bringing in, and you're trusting to be those guys to mentor those younger players, because you can have situations like this where it goes south so quickly and it affects the lives of these players forever. Um, yeah, like these stories are tough to read. Like, uh,
Yeah. And
yeah,
Black Leap was Chickatimi's first round draft pick in 94. And 10 weeks into the 94-95 season, he quit the QMJHL team completely, never went back. At the time, media reported that he was homesick, missed his girlfriend, and just wasn't in it, as it were. So clearly, either he had to tell somebody that lie, or the team said that. So it sucks that this happens, and there's such a broad amount of people providing cover up for it. So it's good to see that Carl is standing up for it, and calling these guys out, even if it's how 29 years later. So
well, just to put into perspective, like he only played 6 games with them,
yeah,
and then he left the team.
yeah,
He then
he
ended up
could
signing with
he wanted to play
Drummondville,
in the
where
NHL, and he couldn't handle all that crap. And
yeah,
good for him for getting out of there. It's
well, and that's the
unfortunate he
thing
had
is,
to derail his career to do it, but
it
I mean,
derailed.
damn, yeah,
Like, he played 36 games that following season, or, like, in that season, when he left. He went to the Drummondville, team, played 36 games. The following season, he went to Beauport, and he played 13 games, and then that was it. Like, a first-round pick in, the QMJHL, like, even if you don't make it to the NHL, you're still getting a full career in that league of playing all these games on a team all the way through until you're done, and then maybe you continue on. If you decide to get education afterwards, we see lots of players in the WHL go and play for um, university or college teams within the area and continue on playing hockey. Like his
yeah,
career
or even in
was
Europe,
done.
plenty of guys
Yeah, like
go
it
over
was.
and play in the KHL, play in Europe leagues. So Um, the only
Yeah,
other thing
it's
we really have on that at the moment is that a judge in a Quebec City court is scheduled for March 19th to hear arguments about whether the case should proceed as Carl versus the CHL and the QMJHL, or if it will be turned into a class action. In which
yeah.
case, who knows how many players we'll see join in on this? We got much less on this one, but we got another Rick Westhead update on the Halifax Regional Police. They basically just said they're continuing to investigate the sexual assault that is alleged to have occurred in the city during the 02-03 World Juniors Tournament involving multiple members of Canada's team. Um, Pretty much, it. they gave us an update to say that we have no update pretty much,
Yeah,
but it's, I guess, good to know that they are still, they're not completely forgetting about it.
yeah,
The only other thing that they really said of note in their press release was that they want victims to know that there is no statute of limitations to crimes of this nature and sexualized violence. So
yeah,
that's I hope that sentiment reaches as many people as it possibly can, because
yeah,
if you hear some people, even 2 or 3 years pass, there'll be some people going, "Why didn't they come out sooner?" Well, because it's fucking difficult, and there's a lot of trauma with it. So even if it takes you 30 years, if you're ready in 30 years, point them out.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
um, Apologies for all the heavy news, but a lot of stuff came out right around Bell Let's Talk Day. Funnily enough, who
Yeah,
knows if that's on purpose or not? But I believe all things of that nature are uh, dealt with.
yeah,
Um, we do have one very interesting piece of news here, that the basketball team, the Utah Jazz owner, Ryan Smith, officially submitted a letter to the NHL on Wednesday requesting that they initiate the expansion process to bring a franchise to Salt Lake City.
yeah, yeah. That's
That's
interesting. They've been a constant rumored team uh around all this, so it'll kind of be interesting to see where that goes. Again, I'm still a believer of, if you're rolling with the system that they're doing for the playoffs, it's so dumb to have a different number of teams in each division. Like, I'm assuming if Salt Lake City gets a team, they're probably going to introduce uh, another team, whether that's if they go back to Atlanta or Houston, are kind of the other two right there. But it's like,
yeah,
again, it doesn't feel fair to be like, you know, and it makes the scheduling also weird because it's like you've got to play every team within your division 4 times. So it's like now that's an extra 4 games for those teams. Then now it's to get cut out from other places, um
it's weird, but it's not
and
like
it's
the
also
NHL has
like the
ever been a
playoff
huge
race.
stickler
Like,
for having a perfect schedule either.
oh
So
yeah, no, like by no means. But again, my biggest thing is just the playoffs when it's like you're doing the top 3 teams from each, then the wild card. It's like it makes it that much tougher for that one team because, or I
yeah,
guess all those teams within that division because
yeah,
it just kind of creates a logjam. Uh and I know it's not a day and age where you can do, oh hey, here's 4 new expansion teams. Um,
yeah.
but
I
I
really
don't see
hope
the
we can
NHL.
avoid getting a massive, like, just a jumble of four new teams, because, like, man, you think about all the good players some teams lost in expansion draft. They'd have to make some sort of different rules, because every team losing four players, that's that's crazy. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and again, like it's not gonna be like they're gonna throw 4 teams in all at once. And it's also you got to think like once if they do eventually throw in 4 to make them all even, it's like now you're at 36. You're gonna have more people coming and being like, "Hey, we're ready for an NHL franchise." And it's like, at what point do you have to cap it and be like, you know, we can't be getting up into 40 teams, 44. Like at some point they need to be like, if there's gonna be a new team, it's because a team's gonna be relocating.
yeah,
Like I think if in my opinion, I think if it gets to 36, you have to stop.
I definitely think it's either 36 or 40 will be that
I think
number.
40 is too much.
I
40 NHL teams, like that's
I do think that's like a ton.
I think that's just
Um,
I think 36 is the
but
max. I like 32 personally.
I do like 32, but I think they're definitely going past 32 at some point, especially with billionaires like this coming out and saying, "Hey, let's get this
Yeah.
going." Um, I'm just I think 32 or 36 would work best, but I do wonder when the NHL would be able to stop themselves. You know, if they have 40 teams, and then some guy in San Diego says, "Hey man, I got a whole lot of money and I got a building right here." Like, are
Yeah.
are the owners going to turn that down?
Oh,
It
exactly.
it's hard to say. You
Especially
know,
the success we're seeing from Vegas and Seattle already. Like,
yeah.
it just makes them just foaming at the mouth about more potential successful expansion teams. So,
Yeah, especially if it's a really tempting market like a Mexico City or something like that, saying, "Hey, we want a team." Like
yeah.
that's a whole new market. As
Yeah.
annoying as I'm sure it would be for every player to now have to, not, they're used to traveling back and forth Canada to the US, but now internationally dealing with Mexico, that would be a whole thing, but I'm sure there'd be a lot of guys in suits with dollar signs in their eyes on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Um, I think pretty much all we kind of got left is we got a couple contract extensions
Yeah, just
to
from earlier
go
today.
over. The first one being Peter Mrazek, signed again a 2-year extension with the Chicago Blackhawks, with an AAV of 4.250. That is a huge overpay for Peter Mrazek, but again, Chicago's got to reach the cap floor. It's a 2-year deal, so it aligns perfectly with all these other 2-year deals. And when Bedard eventually is ready for his big deal, so uh,
I
you
don't
know,
think it's as
I
big
don't
of
love
an
it. I don't hate
overpay
it.
as some people think. Um, he's played, he's got decent numbers, as decent of numbers as you can reasonably put up without being elite on a absolutely horrendous Chicago Blackhawks team. So, and I mean, guys like what's Corpusalo getting paying, Elvis Merzlikins, I think
Yeah, I guess when you
four and a
compare it to
half is
those,
at the very least, I think it's reasonable.
yeah,
Obviously,
I
they are
guess when you
not in
compare it to
any
those
cap.
guys,
They are not making any cap uh
yeah,
problems over there. But and I think they like a little overpay, but I think the majority of teams, outside the ones that have a Vasilevsky, a Hellebuck, a Sorokin, would be fine taking him at a number at least maybe 1 mil lower than that.
yeah, yeah.
But good,
Um,
good for Mrazek.
yeah, good for him for securing that bag. You can never fault the player.
No.
Um, the Philadelphia Flyers made 2 signings today. They extended Ryan Paling, 2-year extension, an AV of 1.9 million. I think that's fine. I think he's
Yeah,
kind of a good bottom 6 player for him, I would say.
yeah, I think that's very fair. It's a depth player. It's not going to break the bank. It's not too long either, so you're not locking into anything crazy. But I think he's earned it for sure.
Yeah. And then this one, I've seen a lot of people kind of going back and forth about it. More people are saying it's an overpay. I think this is a fucking steal.
I think this is a
Uh,
great contract. I'm glad you agree.
the Philadelphia Flyers signed Owen Tippett, who was a I would say, in my opinion, probably the biggest part of the Claude Giroux trade. When they sent Giroux to Florida,
Yeah.
only for Florida to
Other
get
than
bounced
Giroux, obviously.
early.
But yeah.
Um, they did sign Owen Tippett to an 8-year contract extension that'll kick in July 1st with an AAV of 6.2 million. Um, this is a slam dunk by Danny Briere, who has just had a fucking roller coaster of a last 2 weeks,
Yeah.
between the whole Carter Hart thing and then the Cutter Gauthier thing. Like, this is such a win for him.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, I've heard the name Owen Tippett for so long. I thought he was at least 27. Dude is 24 years old right now. He does turn 25 halfway through February, so fairly soon. But so that contract kicks in the off season of him being 25. They've locked him in at 6.2 million for his entire prime, from
yeah,
being 20 from 25 to 33. That, and with the cap going up as well, that is a fantastic contract.
Yeah, and just
Um,
to put into
I'm gonna bring up
perspective,
the
since kind
stats
of
here as well.
since becoming kind of a full-time player in the NHL, last year at the Philadelphia Flyers, he put up 49 points in 77 games, 27 of those being goals. And then this season for the Philadelphia Flyers, he has 30 points in 46 games, 18 of those being goals. Um, like if you're and in my opinion, he's only getting better. And if
Yep,
you've like is own Tippett good defensively? Fuck no. Awful. But if you're paying only $6.2 million for a guy that's probably going to be during his prime a consistent, you know, 30,
20,
35 goal
25 to 30 goal
scorer,
scorer. Yeah,
I'd probably put him 30 to 35, and then you're probably looking
yeah,
at, you know, 70 to I would just say 70 points plus, because depending on when they've got some other guys coming up, if you get him with the right guys, he could hit that next level. For
yeah.
6.2 million, like he's not going to be out there on the penalty kill getting Selkie votes. Like, no. But is he going to be a guy that can help run a power play for them and be a consistent offensive weapon for him? 6.2, that
The
that's a steal for them.
value contracts like that for guys who consistently can produce 30-ish goals a season for at least 60 points, those like this just screams a guy that you win a cup with, you know? He like an Alex Killorn type player. He doesn't play on your top line all the time. He can, but he's probably on that second line, and he's just always putting up those points when you need them. And I
Yeah.
at a cap hit like that, especially with the cap going up in the future, that is a huge dub.
Well, and if Philadelphia Flyers fans are pissed, go talk to New Jersey Devils fans, because they were fucking outraged when Jack Hughes signed his deal because he wasn't producing great, but they're like, "Oh, he got that 8x8 because he was a first overall pick." Well, now that looks like probably the best contract in the entire league.
Yeah. It's got,
Like
yeah, at least top 5. So, like,
like you're yeah, sure, is 6.2 for what Owen Tippett is right now good? No. But
but it's
the
not even
what he's
bad for right
it's
now.
yeah, like it's not good, it's not bad. I would say it's mediocre. But what he's on pace to get to, and this is on a Flyers team that I think is exceeding expectations.
Yeah.
Like, when you look at where they're at in the standings compared to what their roster is, they should not be there. And
No.
you wait for all these prospects to come up. Like, if you got a guy like Owen Tippett on a power play like Michkov in a couple years, like, like I know they're both goal scorers, but both of them can still dish the puck. Um, this is, I think this is going to turn into a deal that Flyers fans are like, wow, what a steal. And they might not see it right now, but uh, this is a win for the Flyers when they really needed one. Like, they
Yeah.
really needed a win, and I think this is a big one for them.
Yeah. And I am just while we're talking about the Flyers, I do want to throw this out there because I was messing around on Money Puck earlier, looking at some goalie stats, and I just sorting different things, and I found something that I found interesting. You can look at the goalie stats and sort top to bottom for all of these. And one of them that I did was the percentage of shot attempts blocked by teammates per goalie. So it's organized as a goalie stat, but it's a team stat. Number one goalie in the league for most shot attempts blocked by teammates is Samuel Urson on the Flyers at just over 25% of shot attempts are blocked by teammates. In second is Logan Thompson, just below him. In number three, Carter Hart, 23.52. There are no two goalies from the same team until you go down to like, it doesn't even go that far. No, there's no team is repeated again other than the Flyers in the top 30. And there's slots one
Yeah,
and two, or one and three. So
yeah,
that really speaks to John Tortorella's coaching style. He's when you're out there, you're putting your body on the line for the team. Like they
yeah.
block shots in Philadelphia right now.
Do they ever? Yeah, yeah. That's actually a very uh telling stat of that team. But with that, I think that kind of wraps up all of the big news that we've got throughout this last week. But a lot of points have been scored over this last week. Lots of goals, lots of goalies making some big saves. So what are we looking at now with the updated stats around the league?
Yeah, so we'll get into that here. We got for the points leader, leading, I will refresh this and see if it will refresh the from the games today because that will have an impact. It
Yeah,
did.
yeah,
It
it
did
should.
update.
Yeah.
Okay. Quant Hockey is so much better than any of these other websites for stats. Um, in first, it's been back and forth, but at the moment, we got Nathan McKinnon with 84 points. Hot on his trails, as always. 83, we got Nikita Kucherov in second. All the way down in third, we got David Pasternak with 69. It's becoming a two-horse race pretty quickly there. McDavid's down in seventh with 63. So he's got about 20 points behind Kucherov and 21 behind McKinnon right now. For goals, running away with it as always. Austin Matthews, 39 goals in 45 games. Absolutely nuts. 36 goals from Sam Reinhart in second, and in third, Nikita Kucherov with 32. For plus minus, we got Quinn Hughes and Philip Hronek at 35 and 34. We got Gustav Forsling in third with 33. And those are all the interesting ones for players. Let's go to goalies. And for goalies, we got with a minimum of 24 games played.
Bump it down. Bump it down a bit.
I figured
Like
that was
what can you bump the
I can
games
bump it.
played down to?
It's a slider. I can go to whatever number you want.
Okay, I'll give you a number. Do 22.
22. Is that based on like around half the games that the teams have played?
Give or take, yeah.
I was trying to aim for something like that.
Just so kind of can give a little bit of a buffer to teams that run a bit of a tandem.
It only added one guy, but it did add a guy from a tandem. For goals saved above expected per 60, so that's compared to your play time, how many goals you save generally better than the next guy. Makes a lot of sense looking at these stats. Number one, Connor Hellebuck at 0.628, Thatcher Demko at 0.587, and Jeremy Swayman at 0.537. Connor Ingram just below him, and then there's a bit of a drop off after that. Do we got save percentage? We do. For save percentage, a lot of the same. Connor Hellebuck, Jeremy Swayman, and Thatcher Demko at a 925, a 924, and a 922, respectively. Joey Decord also at a 922, actually.
Yeah.
Very quietly has been really heating up since December and January.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about all I got for goalies. So
one thing I want to say.
Sure.
Don't let Austin Matthews' insane goal scoring season distract you from the fact that Sam Reinhart is on pace for 61 goals.
36
Like last
goals
year,
in 48 games.
people were losing their mind that we had multiple players reach, or even just players in general reaching 60. Now, if Matthews reaches 70, that's awesome. But the fact that a guy like Sam Reinhart actually might be in that 60 goal club is nuts. And if he hits 60 goals,
He keeps
I don't
saying
even know what his contract would look
he
like.
keeps
Actually,
saying that he's going to take a discount and stay in Florida. Dude,
I think he will.
If you hit 60, please go to free agency and get paid. You will get 11 million at least from another team.
Yeah. And that's the
That's
thing, right? Is like you got to
he
think about
could
it.
win
It's
the
like this.
Rocket. Like Matthews is scoring at
Yeah,
an insane rate. He's only 3 goals behind Austin Matthews.
yeah. And it's the biggest thing is like, he can always do the thing of waiting until July 1st and then seeing what the offers are and then, go back to Florida if he's not happy with the other offers. But the thing is if
Yeah,
he goes back to Florida, he can't sign that 8-year deal. He would only be able to actually sign a 7-year deal then because he's technically not a part of the team anymore more if he's not signed by
really.
that July 1st deadline. Yeah. That's
That's
why
interesting. You can't wait it out and then go back to your team for it.
Islanders fans knew that Tavares was gone before the news even came out, is because they knew he wanted that 8-year deal because you want to get the most money you can. And so once that deadline hit and he wasn't signed, they were like, well, he's gone then. Because if he was going to stay with the Islanders, he
Oh,
would have signed that 8-year deal and got that extra year of 11 mil or 12 mil or whatever the Islanders were offering him. So that's kind of a big thing for players. Is like, do you risk going to free agency and seeing what offers are out there? But then if you go back to the team you were with, you're missing out on that extra year of that certain amount of money. So it's one of those tough things. But again, do I feel bad for the player? Fuck no.
that
He's
makes
gonna
sense.
get it. He's gonna get $60+ million on his next deal, regardless of where it's at or whether it's 7 or 8 years. Like he's gonna get more than that. So, um, and again, like you don't pay tax in Florida, so whatever so it's like, does he sign for 11 mil there and pay a shitload of taxes, or does he sign for 9 with Florida, but he keeps all of
Living
it?
in
It's like,
Florida is probably not too bad either, right? Like
yeah,
there's
and where the team's at, like
in those
he's a huge
California and
part of that
Florida
team.
teams, you get a lot of intangible benefits through things like taxes and just living in a nice place.
Yeah, and if it was still like the Florida Panthers were getting bounced first round or getting swept in the second round or something, I could see it. But like they just went to the Cup Finals. Like they still got the majority of that core that did it. So if he's looking at it and like, you know what, I could sign for 9.5 per year for 8 years and just run it back with these guys and just and stick with the boys. Like I could genuinely see that being what he would do
Yeah,
because to get that bag, you're not paying taxes on it, and you're with a team that almost pulled off one of the greatest underdog stories we've ever seen. And they look better than they did last year. Um, I can definitely see that being a very realistic possibility for Sam Reinhart.
yeah. And as a Tampa fan, can I just say, it is so nice to be able to properly despise the Panthers. Like
Yeah,
for so long, I wanted to hate them, but like they were just so garbage for years that it didn't matter because it's like, yeah, Battle of Florida tonight. Oh, Florida got shit canned again because of course they did. Because they were just in the early 2010s were just abysmal. And in the past, yeah, at this point, 5-ish years have been good, but uh I always was a big fan of Huberto's game, and it made him hard to hate. Uh Trading him for Kachuk is very easy to hate. That made that team so much less likable, and which is great for a rivalry standpoint. They're a fun team to dislike as a rival.
yeah,
So it's a lot more fun to watch those games now. As much as
yeah,
I
yeah,
do love Carter Verhaeghe.
yeah. Just one last thing I want to throw in here because I didn't think it was going to happen this season. I'm pumped for it. If you're one of those hockey fans that loves all things prospects, this will probably excite you. Um, but the NHL's got their own Shaq. Shakir Mukhamadullin of the San Jose Sharks. He's 6'4", so on skates he's a monster out there. Um, he was the big part of the Timo Meier trade. I thought he was going to spend the whole season in the AHL because this is only his first year, full year playing over in North America. He was just called up by the San Jose Sharks the other day. I'm assuming it's probably due to the injury of Mario Ferraro. This is the I can't even think. In all my years of being a Sharks fan, which is quite a while, this is probably the biggest defenseman prospect the Sharks have ever had in their system and called up. So this is exciting. He's a big body. He's got a boom and slap shot. So it'll be very exciting to see kind of where he fits in with the team. I believe he will be playing with Jan Ruda, who you're probably pumped about. He did score his first goal with the Sharks the other.
Yeah. That's
the
former
other.
Stanley Cup champion, 2-time Stanley Cup champion Jan Ruda to you.
So it sounds like he will be playing with Jan Ruda, which I think is a fine guy to pair him with. And again, like it's this is a huge moment for the Sharks. You're really going to be able to see what you've got in this guy who you put a lot of. Well, you're probably your biggest egg in Timo Meier into this basket of Mukamadulin. So it'll be exciting to see what he can do for this team, and it'll be interesting to see is it a little trial of you're playing this amount of games and then we're sending you back down, or does he go out there and impress the shit out of everybody? And it's like we can't justify sending you back down now, and this is the start of a long and successful career for him. So. As a Sharks fan, I'm pumped because, again, the only other guy that comes close to mind is Ryan Merkley, and we know how that panned out. He's not even in North America anymore within the span of a year and a half from kind of looking like he was ready to make the jump to the NHL. So exciting times for a shitty rebuild team.
Yep.
That'll look sick while losing, though.
Oh yeah, you got to get worse before you get better, right? Like if you do not want to be the Minnesota Wild in 2010. You don't want to be that middling team. You always just miss the playoffs or just get in to lose out in the first round. You never
don't want to
get
be the
any
Calgary
big
Flames of right now.
Exactly. You
I mean,
don't want to be
sorry,
that middling team that doesn't get a good pick, but you never get anywhere. That's a recipe for mediocrity. You gotta be bad or you gotta be good.
And you even look at it like look at the Leafs right now. In the span of years, they drafted Morgan Riley early, then Nylander, then Marner, then Matthews. Look at the Oilers; like they kind of dicked around with their first couple first overall picks, but then their core was like Draisaitl, or like Nurse, Draisaitl, McDavid, Bouchard type of thing. The Devils kind of doing the same with Heischer and then Jack Hughes, Luke Hughes. It's like you have to suck. You have to suck for a certain number of years and get those top 5, top 7, top 8 picks, and that's going to be your core that you run with for the future. So does losing suck? Yeah, like we all hate to see our team be the bottom of the barrel and get shit on and get made fun of, but it's like that's the way it goes. You got to go through a tough rebuild to build up that next crop of your core that's going to run that team for the next 15 years or so.
Yeah, you need that Kane and Taves. You need that Stamkos Hedman. You need those building bricks, and it looks like they've got a couple. And if they can get a few more really high level ones, a Celebrini would be fantastic. Him playing with Will Smith, like that's two guys right there, man.
See, I would get my hopes up and be excited, but the fact that they're sitting at the bottom of the barrel, Chicago, just makes me be like, ugh. Speaking of which, this is the last thing I'm going to say before we wrap up, and I want to hear what you think about it.
All right.
In my opinion, the Anaheim Ducks are the worst team in the NHL.
No.
And the only reason I'm saying this is because they The bottom of the league is actually Chicago is now the bottom. They have 30 points. The Sharks have 30. And then just above them in the 30th spot is the Anaheim Ducks with 34. When you
Not that far
compare
ahead.
these rosters, the Ducks clear both these teams in terms of goaltending,
Okay. I thought you were going to
defensemen,
say they were.
forwards.
Okay.
Like
That's
they
fair. I see
should
the
be
argument.
they should be higher than Ottawa,
They should
Columbus.
have, yeah, they
They
should
should
have
be
more than
higher.
4 points above the AHL caliber Blackhawks and San Jose rosters that are being iced.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely.
And Anaheim finished last in the league last year. They were the worst team. And they're doing it again, and it's like, and they even went out and brought in well, I mean, they got Leo Carlson,
Have they
second
got a
overall.
have they had a coaching change in this time?
I'm not 100% sure, but then they even go out and get great veterans in guys like Radko Gudas and Alex Killorn, and it's like the fact that over halfway through the season, you're only 4 points ahead of these dumpster fire teams. It's like, in my opinion, I think in terms of what's expected from the team to where they're at, they're the worst. Because am I a Ducks fan? No, but should they be way higher than where they're at? Yeah, not even including a guy who people are chomping at the bit for of being a Calder finalist in Mintakov. Like he's been an absolute workhorse for them on the blue line.
Yeah. The only team that I think could compete for, we'll say, the most underachieving team with the Ducks is the Blue Jackets. Because at least the Ducks knew they were still going to be bad, right? I think the Blue Jackets genuinely thought this year they would make a push for the playoffs, or at
Yeah,
least be like, if they missed, they'd miss out by 4 points or something like that. But at
yeah,
39 points on the season, uh, they are not bad on purpose, like a lot of the other teams below them and
yeah,
some above them.
and this is a team that drafted Fantilli and immediately thought, yeah, we're ready. So they go out and get guys like Severson and Provorov for the blue line.
Yeah, they
And
clearly were
it's
making moves to improve the team now, not in the future, and they freaking suck right now. So
yeah,
uh,
it's and again it's
they're still gonna be
yeah.
fine. Fantilli is amazing. Kent Johnson is super good. They're gonna be fine. But
All the Russian forwards
right now, it
are unreal.
looks rough. Yeah,
Yeah.
Marchenko is great.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said worst team, but I would say, well, I guess, yeah, in my opinion, worse
Underachieving.
because they should be way better and they're not. So it's,
Yeah,
uh, but
it's
yeah,
much worse to be bad accidentally than bad on purpose.
it's better or worse. So
Uh,
I think they were also bad last
you
year on purpose. Like,
you want to be bad on purpose more than bad accidentally.
yeah, and I think they're bad accidentally.
Yeah, at this, I
Like
think
with a
last year it
roster
was on
like that,
purpose. I think this was supposed to be the turnaround, and it hasn't
yeah,
really at all.
like this should be the year where they're finishing and getting like the
The
ninth overall,
the
10th
10th
overall,
overall.
11th,
Yeah,
and then you get a good player there, and the next year you're probably just missing out on the playoffs, and then the following year you're right in there. But but again, like if you're the Ducks though, with
yeah.
what
Both
they've
those
got,
teams are looking rough.
if you're adding a top 3 pick into that as well, and there's I think their forward core's pretty good, but like some of the defensemen that could be available, they can that can be huge for them. So
Yeah.
but with that,
But
I think
yeah,
that kind of wraps up all that we had here. This is going to be a meaty one. So hopefully,
yeah,
if you're
for
listening, you
sure.
did you're on a road trip somewhere, or you've grabbed some snacks or something because you got a lot of hockey content in this one, and that's what we're always here to deliver.
Yeah, don't let all this distract you from the Edmonton Oilers being on a 15-game win streak and gunning for that 92-93 Penguins record of 17.
Yeah, they're creeping up on it, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. Kind of upcoming in the future, we're gonna be we got the All-Star weekend coming up. We're gonna release a separate episode, kind of covering all things, kind of talking about that. Obviously, the whole 2018 World Junior situation. We couldn't talk about it too much, but once the whole story kind of comes to light and more knowledge is made public, we will make sure to kind of discuss that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But again, thank you to everybody as always for listening to another episode of the Stick 'em Up podcast. Feel free to follow us on the socials and harass us. We are over on Twitter/X at SEU Hockey. And you can also find us over on Instagram at SEU Hockey. Stop by on there, say hello to us, ask us questions, bully us, harass us. We're open to any fan engagement because any engagement of any kind is better than none, I would say.
Yeah, send us your fresh NHL memes if you got it.
Yeah, exactly. But thanks again to everybody for listening. Make sure to stick around because I think we will have an all-star episode coming up sometime early within the week, as I believe the all-star weekend is the following weekend, the weekend of February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So we will have something out before then. So keep an eye out for that. And we will catch you guys in that one.